The crowd inside the arena wasn't just loud, they were rabid. Signs waving in the air, cell phones recording every second, and a heavy tension that felt like the air was seconds away from exploding. But nobody in that building, nobody watching at home, could have predicted what was about to happen. It all started with the moment Bron Breakker snapped. Roman Reigns had been standing in the middle of the ring, still battered from last week's grueling defense, microphone in hand, trying to address the WWE Universe. His voice was calm, his posture confident, that signature smirk on his face as he declared himself still the head of the table. But in the shadows, lurking just behind the curtain, Breakker was pacing like a caged lion. His breathing was heavy, his eyes were wild, and his fists were clenching so hard his knuckles turned white. And then, he stormed out. No entrance music, no slow walk, he ran. The camera barely caught it as Breakker slid into the ring and speared Roman so hard the tribal chief's body folded in half on impact. The crowd's reaction was half shock, half pure chaos. Some cheered, most screamed. But Breakker wasn't done. He mounted Roman, unleashing a flurry of punches so vicious that security swarmed the ring instantly. Paul Heyman was screaming on the outside, yelling for help, waving frantically for medical staff. But Breakker, he had lost all sense of control. It wasn't just about competition anymore. This was personal. When the referees tried to pull him off, he shoved them to the mat. He grabbed a steel chair from ringside and smashed it across Roman's back, each shot echoing through the arena like a gunshot. Fans in the front row could see the welts forming instantly. And then came the moment that crossed the line. Breakker set Roman's head against the steel steps, lifting the chair above his head. The gasps in the arena were deafening. Everyone knew what was about to happen. If he swung that chair, Roman's career could be over. But before the chair could come down, a sound hit the arena like a hammer, Triple H's music. The game walked out with no smile, no water spit, no theatrics. Just pure, cold fury on his face. He marched down the ramp, eyes locked on Breakker, and you could feel the shift in the air. Security doubled in number, and Triple H grabbed a mic without even stepping into the ring. His voice was sharp, controlled, but the venom in his tone was undeniable. Bron, put the chair down. Now. Breakker smirked. The fans were on their feet. You think this is NXT? You think you can walk into my ring, in my company, and pull this kind of stunt? We don't do that here. We don't do that here. The crowd roared at the emphasis, but Triple H's next words silenced them instantly. You've crossed the line for the last time. You want to attack the top guy in this company unprovoked. You want to ignore officials, endanger careers, and make a name for yourself by trying to end Roman Reigns' livelihood. Congratulations. You've just made history. You're the first man in years I'm going to strip of his title, and fire, in the same night. The crowd exploded. Chants of, "You're fired," rang out from every section. Breakker's eyes widened, his jaw tightening. Triple H stepped closer, the tension reaching a breaking point. Bron Breakker, you are no longer the United States champion. And as of this moment, you're no longer employed by WWE. The pop from the crowd shook the cameras. Breakker threw the chair down, lunged toward Triple H, but security swarmed him. He was dragged out of the ring, kicking and yelling, while Triple H stood tall, the now vacant US title in his hand. The last shot before commercial was Roman being helped to the back, his face a mix of pain and rage, and Breakker screaming over the noise, "This isn't over." And this is where the tension in the arena went from boiling to volcanic. The moment Triple H's words, "We don't do that here," echoed through the speakers, the entire WWE universe knew something irreversible was about to happen. Bron Breakker's face went red, his jaw tightened, and you could see the vein in his neck pulsing like it was about to burst. This wasn't just about a title anymore, this was personal humiliation. Breakker still had the championship slung over his shoulder, gripping it like a lifeline. The crowd started chanting, "You deserve it," but not in the congratulatory way. No, this was venom. Every syllable was like a dagger, and Bron knew they weren't praising him, they were mocking him. Triple H didn't flinch. He stepped forward, nose to nose with Breakker, his voice lowering but his tone cutting deep. "That belt you're holding, it doesn't belong to you anymore. Hand it over, right now." The crowd roared, half in shock, half in satisfaction, because they'd never seen the game strip a champion live in the middle of the ring without a match or formal announcement. Breakker looked around, breathing heavily, his eyes darting to Roman Reigns at ringside, who was still recovering from the brutal attack moments earlier. Roman's expression was unreadable. Not rage, not relief, just a cold, dangerous calm. Breakker slowly raised the title, almost as if he was going to give it up, but then he smirked. That smirk was the trigger. Triple H's eyes narrowed, and in a split-second decision, he snatched the belt out of Breakker's hands himself. That one move, that was the end of the line. Triple H turned to the timekeeper's table, tossed the belt on it, grabbed the mic again and said the words that would blow the roof off the place. Bron Breakker, you're fired. The arena exploded. Gasps, cheers, boos, chaos everywhere. The camera cut to Roman, who cracked the slightest grin as if justice had just been served. But Breakker, he lost it. He grabbed the mic from Triple H and shoved him, screaming. You can't do this. I made this title mean something. Security flooded the ring instantly, swarming Breakker as Triple H stood his ground. The game didn't even blink, didn't even back down. He just stared at Breakker being dragged out like a wild animal, yelling threats at everyone in sight. The last thing we saw before the cameras cut to commercial was Bron's voice echoing in the distance. This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over. But what nobody knew at that moment was that this firing would spark a chain reaction that could tear WWE's locker room apart in the coming weeks. And just when people thought this situation had reached its boiling point, Triple H stepped back, took a deep breath, and with a voice that could cut through steel, said the words that would be replayed for years. We don't do that here. The entire crowd went silent for half a second, before erupting into a frenzy. Those words weren't just about the attack on Roman Reigns. Those words were a direct statement about the kind of locker room Triple H was running, a no-nonsense, no entitlement, no disrespect environment. And Bron Breakker, whether he realized it or not, had just crossed the line into career suicide territory. Breakker tried to defend himself. He yelled back into the mic, Roman Reigns isn't untouchable. He's been protected his whole career, and I'm the one who finally called him out for what he is. But Triple H wasn't having it. You called him out. Triple H snapped back, his voice raising. No, you blindsided him. You didn't call him out in the ring, face to face, man to man. You jumped him like a coward, you injured one of the top talents in this company, and now you want to act like you're some hero. Let me tell you something, we don't do that here. The crowd popped hard, with chants of, Hunter, Hunter, filling the arena, and then came the hammer drop. Triple H pulled out a championship belt from under his arm, the same belt Breakker had been holding proudly just days earlier, and held it up for everyone to see. As of this moment, Triple H continued, you are stripped of this title. You are no longer champion. And as far as your contract goes, Triple H paused for dramatic effect, looking Breakker dead in the eyes. You're fired. The arena exploded. People were standing, screaming, some cheering, some booing. Breakker's face turned beet red. He threw down his mic and started pacing like a wild animal in the ring, shouting at Triple H, you can't do this to me. I am the future of WWE. You need me. Triple H, unmoved, simply turned and started walking away, but not before saying, the future doesn't start with you, kid. The future starts with people who respect this business. Security flooded the ring to keep Breakker from chasing after Triple H. Fans near ringside were leaning over the barricade, pointing at Breakker, taunting him with chants of, nah 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 nah, hey hey hey, goodbye. But Breakker wasn't done. Oh no. He grabbed the ropes, leaned over towards the commentary table, and screamed into the headset that Michael Cole was wearing, this isn't over. You think you can embarrass me like this? Roman's not safe, and neither is Triple H. Cole, visibly shaken, told him to calm down, but security dragged Breakker away, literally carrying him up the ramp as he kicked and yelled like an animal being dragged out of a cage. And then, in a moment that set social media ablaze, Breakker broke free from the guards halfway up the ramp and tried to storm back into the ring. Triple H, who was still at the top of the ramp, turned around, squared his shoulders, and took one step forward, ready for a fight. The fans erupted again. But before anything could happen, a swarm of additional security, at least 10 men, completely tackled Breakker and dragged him to the backstage area. The show cut to commercial, but the chaos didn't stop there. Backstage footage, captured by a fan on their phone, showed Breakker throwing equipment crates, shoving camera crew, and screaming, you just made the biggest mistake of your career, Hunter. Word quickly spread that Roman Reigns, still recovering from the attack, had been taken to a medical facility. The Usos were reportedly fuming, demanding that WWE reinstate Breakker so they could handle this themselves. But Triple H doubled down in an internal memo sent to the roster. We are setting a standard. If you go against the code, there will be consequences. This isn't the Wild West. This is WWE. And then, as if the night hadn't already hit rock bottom for Bron Breakker, Triple H didn't just stop with the firing. He stood in the center of that ring and, in front of millions watching around the world, called Bron Breakker a coward. He said that champions don't blindside their opponents from behind, they don't attack men who aren't cleared to compete, and they damn sure don't try to make a name for themselves by putting the entire company in danger just to get a cheap reaction. The crowd. They were split. Half of them were chanting, you deserved it. And the other half were stunned into silence, almost as if they couldn't believe WWE would actually go through with firing someone on live television. But this is where it gets even more insane. Triple H then took the title Bron Breakker had stolen and placed it back in the hands of Roman Reigns himself, even though Roman wasn't medically cleared. The look on Roman's face said it all. This wasn't about the title anymore. This was about pride, about revenge, about sending a message to Bron Breakker that the tribal chief doesn't just let things slide. And if you thought Bron was going to walk up that ramp quietly after being fired, you clearly don't know the man. He snapped, lunging at Roman one more time, only for security, referees, and several superstars to swarm the ring and drag him out like a wild animal. Cameras caught him screaming at the top of his lungs, threatening lawsuits, promising to burn the place down, and vowing that this wasn't the last time anyone in WWE would see him. Roman. He stood tall in the ring, title in hand, barely holding back a smirk, because deep down he knows, Bron Breakker just signed his own death warrant the moment he messed with the bloodline. But here's where this story turns from shocking to downright nuclear. I'm hearing from sources backstage that Bron Breakker isn't just gone from WWE, he's already in talks with another major wrestling company. If those rumors are true, then Triple H might have just created his biggest outside threat yet. And if you thought the war between Bron Breakker and Roman Reigns ended here, you couldn't be more wrong. This is only the beginning.